All right, so today we're going over 14.4. We're going to split 14.4 into 2 weeks. We're just going to do the basics this week, and then we'll do some word problems next week. So this is where everything that we've kind of been working on comes together, and it's one of the most important things that you can learn in calculus. So the whole reason we know about limits is to find what we call the derivative, which is the slope of a tangent line. So if we see the word derivative, we should think of the word slope. And what we mean by that is if we had a y equals mx plus b, right, we know the m here is the slope of the line, right, and it's the same, right? So if it was at 1 and we went up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1, we would get a line that has a slope of 3, right? It's constant, it's moving the same amount each time. Well, when we have a curve, right, so a line or a function that's not a line, we're still allowed to find the slope. It's just that at different points along the curve, the slope is going to be different, right? So maybe right here at point P, this is going to have a positive slope of maybe 3, where right here, let's pretend the slope is 3. Right here, the slope might be -0.5. Okay, so at each point it's going to have a different slope. And when we find that slope, we can find the equation of this tangent line. And if you remember from geometry, tangent means touches, right? And what happens is it creates kind of like a right angle right here with the curve. It touches the curve. It doesn't intersect it. Intersecting would intersect at multiple points, but it just touches right here. So in order to find this slope, right, if I wanted to know what is the slope right here, then we use what we've been working on over the next couple of weeks, which is limits. So we're going to use this formula here to find the slope. So if we want to find the slope, we're going to use the formula, the limit as x is approaching c of f of x minus f of c over x minus c. So for example, it says find the equation of the tangent line. So we want to find the equation of the tangent line, which is going to be y equals mx plus b, which means I need to find m and I need to find b. And to find m, we're going to use this equation. So the limit as x is approaching c, well, this right here is c, and this is f of c. So as x is approaching -1 of f of x, which is 8x minus 5, minus f of c, which in this case is -13, over x minus c, which in this case is -1. So now that we have our slope written out, we can now go through and find the limit. So subtract a negative means add. So 8x minus 8, no, plus 8 over x plus 1. We could factor out an 8 here. X plus 1 over x plus 1. The x plus 1's then cancel. Now we're going to plug -1 in for x. Well, there is no x, so that gives us an answer of 8. So that's the slope of the tangent line. So that is our m. Now to find the b, we're going to plug our point in to find b. So y here is -13, x is -1, and I'm solving for b. I don't know why I put the negative on that side. So b is -5. So we know our answer is y equals 8x minus 5. Now, if you notice, these are the same thing. And that's only going to happen because this is a line. Because let's think about it. If I want to find the slope of a curve, well, our curve here is 8x minus 5. So that means we went down to -5, and we went up 8 over 1, up 8 over 1, and we got this line here. Well, if I want to know the slope at -1, -13, well, the slope here is 8 because if it's a line, it has a constant slope. So anywhere on this line, it's going to have a slope of 8, right? So that should make sense because this is a line that the slope is the same all the way. Okay, so that's kind of one of those rare occasions. It's only because this is a line that our answer ends up being the same. Okay, so for example, in number 2, we have a quadratic, right? So we've got x squared minus 1. So that's going to look something like this. And we want to know at the point 2, 3, so maybe that's right here, what is this tangent line, right? Y equals what? Mx plus b. So our first thing is we have to find the slope. So m equals the limit as x is approaching c of f of x minus f of c all over x minus c. Combine your like terms. Factor the x minus 2's cancel. Now we could plug our 2 in. 2 plus 2 gives us a slope of 4. So we know our slope is going to be 4. So right here, we know from this point at 2, 3, it goes up 4 over 1, up 4 over 1, up 4 over 1, and it creates this line. Now to find the b value, we're going to plug this in. So 3 equals 4 times 2 plus b. So watch what happens if I were to plug these into my calculator. So our two equations here are, our first equation was x squared minus 1, and then the equation we just found was 4x minus 5. If I were to graph those, see how it creates this graph where we have our quadratic and our line, and if we went, well, it's hard, it's not letting me trace it, but at 2, 3, they intersect each other at that point 2, 3. Okay, so another problem. So we first need to find our slope. So our slope is the limit as x is approaching c, which in this case is 1, of f of x minus f of c all over x minus c. So if we want to subtract fractions here, we need common denominators. We have common denominators. So that gives us x squared minus 1 over 4 over x minus 1. Then we can factor x minus 1, x plus 1, all over 4, all over x minus 1. Then we can multiply by the reciprocal. So x minus 1, x plus 1, oops, all over 4 times 1 over x minus 1. The x minus 1's can cancel, leaving us with x plus 1 over 4. So now let's plug in our x of 1. So 1 plus 1 over 4 gives us 2/4, which is 1/2. So the slope of our equation is 1/2. Now let's find the b value. So 1/4 equals 1/2 times 1 plus b. Move the 1/2 to the other side. Gives us negative 1/4. 1/4 minus 1/2 is negative 1/4. Right, if I were to plug these two equations into my calculator, x squared divided by 4, and then 1/2 x minus 0.25. At the point 1, 1/4, they create a tangent line where they intersect at the point 1, 1/4. Now, when the problem says that we want to find the derivative, derivative in calculus is just a fancy word for slope. So if it says find the derivative, all we want to do is find the slope, which is what we've been doing here. So we don't need to find the tangent line. Once we find the slope, we're done, right? So it's like one less step. However, if we look here, we have the x value. It's saying we want to find the slope at 3, but in order to use this formula, we need an ordered pair, right? Because we use the y value on the top and the x value on the bottom. So we need to plug this 3 into our equation so that we can find our ordered pair. 3 comma what? So negative 5 times 3 plus 6 gives us negative 15 plus 6, which gives us negative 9. So 3 comma negative 9. Now that we have our ordered pair, we can find the slope by using the limit as x is approaching c of f of x minus f of c all over x minus c. Oops, I forgot the x. Factor out the negative 5. So our answer is negative 5. Now, if we look at number 5 here, it wants us to find f prime of 0. That's how we say that, f prime of 0. Now, f prime is just a fancy way of saying derivative, and derivative is just a fancy way of saying slope. So we first need to get our ordered pair. So our ordered pair here is going to be 0 comma something. So let's plug 0 in. 2 times 0 squared minus 5 times 0 gives us 0. So our ordered pair is 0, 0. Find the slope, the limit as x is approaching 0 of f of x minus f of c all over x minus c. So we have 2x squared minus 5x all over x. We could factor out an x on the top. The x's then cancel. Now plug in your 0. So the slope, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you guys couldn't see all that work I was doing. So we factored out the x, which gave us 2x minus 5. The x is then canceled. Now we can plug in the 0, which gave us an answer of negative 5.